Alrighty, friends. Welcome. This is our first podcast. This is Carter and Kat's Weather Chat, and I'm Carter.
And I'm Kat.
And this is our Weather Chat. All right, well, for those who don't know, typically you see me on the green screen, and same for Catalina, but, we're kind of stepping out of our comfort zone, trying something new. You looking forward to this?
I am definitely looking forward to this. I'm a little nervous, but I think with time we'll probably get a good groove going and it'll get easier.
I definitely agree. For those who don't know, so this is Carter and Kat's Weather Chat is what we're calling it. But this podcast right here that we're starting up, the whole goal of it is to kind of explain the whys. Why do we see certain things happen in weather? Because really and truly, me and Kat, we don't have a whole lot of time on the green screen to explain all these things in a 30-minute segment that we only have, 3 minutes and 30
minutes?
Yeah.
And then some.
Yeah, it makes more sense for us to have a chance to do it here, and we're very excited to do this. But I think we have to start this off as simple as we can, Kat. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do some introductions. Kat, I want you to introduce yourself.
Yes. Well, I'm Catalina Bell. I usually go by Kat to my friends and my family, so that's why we're rolling with Kat here. If you see me on the street, you can call me Kat as well. I am from a small town north of San Antonio, just 20 miles north, called Spring Branch, Full Verde. I grew up there. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, and then I went to Texas A&M Corpus Christi to start my undergrad. Well, that's the Islanders. Go Durs.
I tried.
Well, then that's actually where my interest in meteorology came from. I went to Corpus Christi. I decided that I was really interested in hurricanes, and I wanted to study meteorology. Looked up what the best meteorology school was, one of the best, and that happened to be Texas A&M. So
now I can do it. There we go. Giggle.
So I went there and I got my degree, Bachelor of Science in Meteorology, and I had the best time. I studied lightning sprites there. I got into broadcasting there. I met so many incredible people, some of my best friends and some of my roommates as well. And so, I really loved it there, and it's someplace I'll never forget, and I miss it every day. But now I'm here in Abilene. I moved here about a year ago. With my cat Lewis, and he's an old man. He's about 14 years old, and so we're here now, and we've been here, and we're doing the thing, and I love it.
I love that. Now I know typically people who get a meteorology degree, they're very lucky to make it out in 4 years. Did you make it out in 4? What was your?
I took a couple victory laps. I'd like to think that my year in Corpus didn't necessarily count because I think I was still figuring out myself and, figuring out what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
but once I got to A&M, I put my head down. I did what I needed to do, and we're here now.
Love to see you.
So, what about yourself?
Well, glad you're here. For those who don't know, I'm from Kingston Springs, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. Actually, one of our sports reporters, Carlos Rosado, is from the same county as me in Tennessee, so we kind of know each other from there. Didn't know each other in high school, but we met here in Abilene. But I got into meteorology and went to the University of Tennessee in Martin. UT Martin, UTM, go Skyhawks.
You did this last time.
I did it last time, and you kind of remembered.
Yes.
You went to the triangle. You got to add the I, so that's great. And so we went there, and, that's all the way in West Tennessee. And most people, when they think of West Tennessee, they think of Memphis. Not Memphis. I'm talking West Tennessee like the farmlands, not a city. But it was a great school. Was there for 4 years. Learned a whole lot. I ended up majoring in meteorology, minoring in communications, which I don't know if A&M is kind of like UT Martin, but we don't really have a broadcasting program for meteorology. It's not like Mississippi State. I think OU has a small one. It's not like that. It's just meteorology.
Ours is a little bit of both, the science and then, tackling the broadcasting. We had an organization called TAMU Weather, and that's where they would allow students to get in front of the green screen, and we would post it to social media like Instagram and Facebook. So that was our broadcasting, but there was no broadcasting major.
Okay.
It was just meteorology, and that was it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, yeah, same deal. And, I ended up having a minor in communications. Well, that got me into radio. So I did radio and the weather for the radio station there, WUTM, 90.3 The Hawk. Got to give them the shout out. But then I ended up applying for jobs, and Abilene was one of them. Wonderful news director reached out to me, and I ended up
Yes,
taking on
I
the
can
job.
relate. A wonderful news director at the time reached out to me as well.
Yes, it's really good to be here. I was nervous. I was scared. Because unlike, I mean, I didn't live in Texas. I had to move, states away, miles
Yes.
away. But we're here now.
So did you do broadcasting beforehand? Did you have like an internship? Did you have experience in broadcasting before you got here?
I did get to do a little bit. I got to intern at WKRN News 2 in Nashville. Still a Next Star station, just the local one there for Nashville. And it's the one that I grew up watching. And so I interned the summer before I graduated. And, with all the connections, and it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And, this is a Next Star station. That was a Next Star station. People there knew people here. It all just kind of worked together and played itself out. What about you?
I had no experience other than TAMU broadcasting, and when I got here, I felt like I was never going to be ready to go on TV because I thought the world was going to crumble around me when I was on the green screen. So no experience other than the broadcasting group, and maybe I could have stepped out of my comfort zone and got an internship. But I think in the time of that I was in college, I was learning about myself and trying to step out of the box, and it was really hard for me. But now I feel like being here, it's definitely helped me become a better person and grow connections and meet with new people. And so now, I mean, like hopefully in the next, deal, it'll be a little bit easier.
Well, you're really good at being on air now. I'll tell you, I'm on KRBC, NBC. I don't normally watch KTAB or CBS, but if I'm watching, and let's say there's severe weather and you're cutting in, you do a great job.
Thanks, Carter. You too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't typically watch, but me and Carter, we'll watch each other, kind of see what we're doing, and, we'll be like, hey, you could do this or, whatnot, and looking at our graphics and comparing them and whatnot, so.
That's right.
We're friendly competition.
We're a team. Well, okay, I kind of want to break down this podcast and start from the beginning, and, coming up with an episode name. That's not the easiest thing.
Hey, you did it, though.
We did it. We came up with one for this first episode,
yes.
And that is From Clouds to Curiosity, Why We Chase the Why.
Yes.
And I think that's so important because the whole podcast in general is about chasing the why, understanding what happens, the science of meteorology, why we see it happen, and, we can't do that if we don't chase the why ourselves.
Exactly.
And so, I kind of want to start by asking you, like, why does weather matter to you? What got you into it? Why?
Well, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, like the hurricane season when I was living in Corpus for that year was just so intriguing to me, and it was going to impact me if we were going to receive a hurricane that year. Thankfully, while I was there, we didn't see anything significant, but, it was, okay, what do I need to do to maybe get home a little bit earlier, like back in San Antonio if I needed to evacuate, or, what do I need to wear that day to prepare for if there's any rain coming in? And so that's kind of what intrigued me. And then now on my day-to-day basis, like thinking about the weather and thinking about, like I said, what I'm going to wear. Am I going to wear like a long sleeve to work if I'm working during the week, or, thinking about my family as well, and they live in the hill country. It's Flash Flood Alley. That's something that, this last summer was very impactful for me because I had to watch out for them. And so that's kind of why weather is important to me. And, I have family in Tennessee. They live in Knoxville now. And so they actually had reached out to me as well about, oh, hey, there's a tornado warning over us. Like, tell me what to do. And I got to, like, guide them through what they needed to do. So that's kind of, that's my why, is helping people and, even for myself and figuring out what I need to do, for them or for myself. So
I love it. It's like we all have a, what's the word? It's like we all have a gift. Mm-hmm. We all have a talent that we're really good at. And, communicating, talking to people, building those connections, but also knowing how to forecast and understand the weather. They all just go hand in hand, and sometimes you just save a life by doing that as well.
Yes, it's so important. So what is your why?
Well, honestly, my why, I don't know. I don't have like a story where it's like, oh yeah, I've been impacted. I haven't been through a whole lot. Mm-hmm. A lot of my family hasn't been through a whole lot as far as weather goes. But I guess really and truly it's just the adrenaline and knowing that I'm able to help somebody but also have a good time doing it. It's not like I'm you know, I'm a paramedic or I'm a doctor or a cop. You know, I'm not I'm not stressed out at work,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm getting to, you know, still be a helping hand while having fun.
You know, I had a really hard time with the adrenaline part of it all because I didn't realize how much adrenaline came with delivering those live cut ins on TV, whether it's a tornado warning, a severe thunderstorm warning. So that was something that definitely I had to adjust to. But it definitely is fun now, like, especially since we're pretty grounded now in where we are. And so that was pretty tough.
It's hard because it's one of those things where it's like us as meteorologists, our job is to not scare the
Mm-hmm.
viewer.
Yes.
We don't want to scare them. We just want to give them the knowledge because
Mhm.
knowledge is key. But when we see something that excites us because we learned about it in school, or we just it just fascinates us. It intrigues our minds
We
as
get
meteorologists. We
excited.
do, and it's hard because we don't want to get too excited and scare them.
Yes, I definitely think that too. Like, you don't want to, like, to not scare people, you have to make sure you're not scared, but also make sure, like, oh, when you get so passionate about something, like, you want to just, like, give them all of the information, but then at the same time, like, maybe some might not understand everything that's going on, so you have to tone it down a little, and we're working on
I
it.
definitely agree. Well, Kat, you know, talking about the whys, we've kind of explained our why. We've explained ourselves. I think it's time that we bring in our first why.
Yes, I agree. So, okay, so what is something that you picked up on when you moved to West Texas? Could be anything.
When I moved to West Texas, well, let's see, I moved in the middle of summer. Kind of stressed out when I moved in, not a whole lot. But then, once I was here for a little bit, the West Texas Fair and Rodeo came to town.
Yes, that is something that I picked up on very quickly and something that I heard a lot. And I don't know if you've heard this either, but I've heard that it always rains when the fair is in town. And that's something I've heard from so many Abilenians and big country residents, and I couldn't grasp that idea. I was like, well, no, there's no way. And so last year I did research. I did about 10 years back,
Okay.
and I noticed that there was more non-rainy years than there were rainy years. So in my head, I was like, no, that's not true. It's not true, whatnot. And I was a little humbled by some of the big country residents, and that's okay. But
As we all are.
yes, but there is a reason why the rain comes into town when the fair comes into town. Now, the fair is in the middle of September, usually, or the beginning right after Labor Day. And that's usually whenever meteorological fall starts, as well as our astronomical fall starts as well. That's when we start seeing, our first set of cold fronts or just any weather system that comes in. That's what's happening. And so, that's pretty much the short answer of why it rains when the fair comes into town. But that's what a lot of people believe because, I did more research this year and I did 25 years back to 2000. And that's a
Wow.
lot. And that took a lot of digging because I couldn't find necessarily all of the West Texas Fair and Rodeo dates. But what I've noticed is there were 21 years out of the 25 that it rained. And so what people remember is when it rains. They're never going to remember when it's dry. So at 21 out of 25 years, that's a lot of years for it to rain. And so whether it's a trace of rain, I did research on the National Weather Service and their past weather, the almanac did year by year with the September, and whether it was a trace of rain or it was a significant amount of rain.
Yeah.
It rained 21 out of the 25 years of research that I did. And that's what people remember. That's why people say when the fair comes into town, it's always going to rain. And, maybe it's a fun fair folklore. People, they want to believe that, and that's fine. I believe it too now, but there's reasonings behind it. So if you want to, give a little bit more of the fall and how we get our cold fronts and stuff this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, of course, of course they remember when it rains, Kat. If it doesn't rain, they're thinking about the rides, which I have to ask, this is not weather related at all. What's your favorite fair ride?
I don't know. I haven't been to the fair in a really long time, so I think it's hard for me to pick I didn't go last year. I
You're
think
going to make me cry.
I was working, so I didn't really get a chance to go out there. But if I had to pick, it's probably either the Ferris wheel or one of the ones that like flips you upside down. I'm an adrenaline junkie. So
Okay.
in terms of rides.
Adrenaline junkie, just not on the wall.
Just not on the wall.
That's okay.
Not on the wall.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I looking at it honestly, because I was told the same thing. Oh, yeah, it rains when the fair comes to town. Okay, thanks. That's all I said. I didn't know what to say because when I got here, it was dry. It was dry, and that was it. Hot and dry, every forecast. Hot and dry, copy and paste, no changes whatsoever. But looking at it and looking at the science behind it, it makes sense. We're dealing with certain patterns where we see the same front system move in, the same amount of humidity and moisture, which is really having an impact on that rainfall as well. Not to mention that we are in prime tropical season right now.
Yes.
And with prime tropical season, we are seeing more high levels of moisture come from the Gulf, whatever you want to call it, all the way up and still impacting us here in the Abilene area.
Yes, and that's something I was going to touch on is like, around this time we're still seeing that moisture, especially during hurricane season, and then obviously those cold fronts come through, the air clashes, it brings thunderstorms or just rain sometimes, and that's basically what happens a lot of the years. And so, like I said, I did my research, and we have some significant years on here that they saw significant amounts of rain, and even days that they saw pretty much the entire fair full of rain, and that's the why. There's cold fronts, moisture's still there, clashing with it, and it's bringing us some rain for the West Texas Fair and Rodeo. Are we going to see rain this year? We'll find out.
That's a great question. I mean, right now we're looking at rain in that forecast. This weekend we're starting another pattern. It could feel like fall. Temperatures going to cool down. More rain back in the forecast. Looking at that paper across there, I see lots of El Niños and La Niñas.
Yes.
And some people might not know what that means. If you want to maybe just kind of explain it for us, and maybe there's a reason why we see rain involved with those patterns.
Yeah. So another big thing is our climate, which is obviously it's El Nino, La Nina, and then there's neutral. So the big broader picture of it is ENSO, which is the El Nino Southern Oscillation, and that is I don't know how to explain it in easy terms, but that's basically what controls our climate, and it's all determined on the temperature of the ocean right off of the equator into the Pacific, I believe, and if it's warmer, I believe it is La Nina. And if it's cooler, it's El Nino. And I hope I'm getting that correct.
I'm going to shake my head and say I agree.
It's a lot of science that we learn in college, and so whenever you kind of stop talking about it, it's hard to...
It fades.
It fades just a little bit, but I believe that last year we saw La Nina winter, and it was a milder and drier winter, and then I believe El Nino is cooler and wetter. So that's what I thought we were going to see this year, but we're actually transitioning into La Nina. There were some years that we saw La Nina whenever the fair came into town, and that's what we were in. And based off of what I've seen here is a lot of La Ninas brought a lot of rain into the big country. And there's probably a little bit more research that I could do in terms of that. So that's something that we have to pay attention to as meteorologists, though, because... not only just for the fair, obviously it's coming into town, but for our seasonal outlook going into the next couple of months and what we potentially could see. So the Farmer's Almanac, they had said that we were going to see a cooler and wetter winter, I believe. And that's based off of their research and what they use to come up with that consensus. But La Nina typically brings us a warmer and drier pattern. So where's the middle ground on that? That's when we have to do the research to understand what we could expect heading into the winter. So right now, I don't think it's going to be as cold as the Farmer's Almanac says it's going to be. But yeah, so El Nino, La Nina, if you want to remember it or not, it's a complex, pretty broad deal that even meteorologists themselves, it makes my head hurt, honestly. I did a lot of research into it in college as well, in a climatology class. And I wanted to beat my head on the desk because it was pretty complex. So because just because it says La Nina or El Nino doesn't necessarily it's going to follow that pattern too. So
yeah,
it's very complex. I don't know if I could explain it any better or.
You're good.
Yeah.
That was great. All right. Well, I think we tried to explain the why You know, we sometimes think of that fair and rodeo as a rainy season or rainy weekend. But I think we need to simplify it just a little bit. So if you can kind of say why you think it is and why it happens in one sentence. One sentence. It's a challenge.
I believe that it rains during the West Texas Fair and Rodeo in September because of the seasonal changes and around the time that we get our first or second cold front.
All right. Looking at the future of this podcast, I'm very excited to see where this goes. There's a lot of different topics, different ways we can go. And, you know, me and Kat, we can come up with ideas any day, all day long. However, it's up to you viewers. You know, you guys are the ones who are going to be having these questions, wondering why things happen the way they do. And we'll keep putting out stuff. But if you ever have any suggestions, please reach out to myself, reach out to Catalina.
I already had one suggestion from the newsroom, from our assistant news director, Victor.
What is that?
He wants us to talk about the diastome. And I know a lot of Abilenians know about the diastome, and I can't wrap my head around the diastome. So I feel like we're going to have to talk about it.
Well, maybe next week. Next week we can.
Not today.
Yeah, we'll squeeze that in.
I don't have an explanation for the diastome yet. So.
I'm excited. You know, there's a lot of different things to talk about. You know, my favorite topic that I'm looking forward to that we're definitely going to talk about is storm chasing. I love storm chasing. People wonder why you do it. Why are we chasing? What's the importance on that? So we'll definitely hit on that.
I don't know what my favorite topic would be because I know you do love storm chasing, and that's something that I'm excited for us to tackle. I think I just like the random questions. Like I know we were putting our stuff together, like why the sky isn't always blue, and you know, one of our reporters, Mariah Williams, she's like, well, the sky is always blue, and I was like, well, have you looked at the sky when the sun is setting? And sometimes it's orange and pink. There's reasons behind that, and some people just they don't know, and that's why we're here. We're gonna tell you, explain it to you, and get you educated without the degree.
Yeah. Well, Kat, is there anything else that you want to say before we close things off?
No, I'm really excited, and I don't know. I'm really curious to see how and where this goes for us, and if we can maybe get some of our other Mets in here and see if they can give us some of their knowledge from, you know, that we have 2 Aggie Mets, so we'll get their big brains in here. And
we do. We got a lot of Mets to pick and choose from. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think we also have to get the one and only Pete Beretta in here
at some point. Absolutely.
Well, anyways, friends, thank you so much for listening. This has been Carter and Kat's Weather Chat. Until next time, keep chasing the why.